Check this out. If I swipe down and then tap this new privacy display button, well, firstly, you'll notice it actually drops the brightness a little bit, and more on that in a second. But look, it's like having one of those privacy screen protectors built into your phone. It can be full screen, it can be just for notifications, for your pins and passwords, and you can even enable it for individual apps, which is very handy to avoid those sneaky side eyes when you're out in public and sat on the bus or the train. Samsung say they've been working on this hardware for a few years, so it won't be coming to other phones, it won't be coming via an update, and it is exclusive to the Ultra. So the screen itself controls the direction of the light by which pixels it emits light from, so it can narrow the viewing angle, meaning only you, right in front of it, can see your naughty messages, or whatever it may be. Downsides? Well, as I say, it is S26 Ultra only. Also, if you look side by side here with my S25 Ultra and the S26 Ultra, turning privacy display on does noticeably lower the whole screen brightness. I also noticed, even with it turned off, the viewing angles on the new phone seem to be worse than last year. I need more time to test it, but first impressions, it's just refreshing to have a genuinely useful new feature that we haven't really seen before and isn't just some AI gimmick. So let me introduce you to my Galaxy S26 Ultra. Samsung invited me to a little hands-on event where I had a couple of hours with the new phones, and there are three of them. We have the S26, we have the S26 Plus, and the flagship S26 Ultra, all with some fancy new colors. It comes in black, it comes in white, a very nice sky blue, and also the hero color, and I think my personal favorite, this cobalt violet. It's like a subtle purpley blue, depending on how the light hits it. And there will be a couple of more colors available exclusively online at Samsung.com. But let's talk about this new refreshed design for the S26 Ultra, because side by side with last year's Ultra, they've made the corners significantly more rounded, so the boxy, squared-off style of old Galaxy Notes is long gone, and it's just a lot more comfortable to hold, thanks in part to also being thinner and lighter. Like Apple, they have ditched the titanium that we had last year and now gone back to aluminium, or Samsung's own Armor aluminium as they call it, and that's the same material that they used in the Fold 7 and also the recent Trifold. So the 6.9-inch S26 Ultra shaves off 4 grams, bringing it down to 214, and it's also just 7.9 millimeters thick now, down from 8.2. Still IP68, water and dust resistant, which is great, but no sign of IP69 or 69K like we've started seeing in some rivals. And being 6.9 inches, it is still a big phone, but it just feels less unwieldy now. It's definitely more comfortable, and they've even slimmed down the S Pen and rounded off the top to fit this new curvier curve. Nothing else to report with the S Pen though, and still no Bluetooth support sadly. But looking at the new lineup, there is absolutely a more cohesive design language here, particularly now with this new little camera bump, or what Samsung call the ambient camera island. So unlike the previous Galaxy phones, where it kind of looks like the camera lenses were just stuck on, while we do still have a quad camera setup, along with the laser autofocus and the flash, design-wise this is much better. Well, except for the wobble, which, because the cameras are now more sticky-outy, has got worse. That's not so much of an improvement. Up front, we have the same size, 6.9-inch Quad HD Plus AMOLED 120Hz display, and also the same 2600 nits of peak HDR brightness. No major changes there. And actually, interestingly, all three S26s have the exact same 2600 nits of brightness. But the Ultra being the Ultra, it is the biggest, 6.9 versus 6.7 and 6.3 respectively for the three new phones. It's also the only one to have this fantastic anti-reflective screen introduced last year, and which is still one of my absolute favorite things about this phone. Only the Ultra gets the S Pen, and of course this new privacy display option, albeit with some questions regarding brightness and viewing angles. And lastly, the Ultra is the only phone to come with their Pro Scaler, or what they're now calling their Enhanced Pro Scaler, which can upscale your videos and movies. I can't say I noticed much difference last year with the Pro Scaler, but they say it does the nice upscaling stuff, and they say it's better this year with the Enhanced Pro Scaler. But also, the S26 Ultra for the first time supports 10-bit color processing, so it should be able to display more precise colors. Although once again, no change to the PWM, the pulse width modulation. I don't want to dive too much into that, but essentially some people are quite susceptible to the flickering of the OLED screen, and a higher PWM makes that easier on your eyes. Some of the Chinese rivals are now offering 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 Hz PWM rates, and once again, we're not really seeing any change here from the Samsung. What has changed though is what's on the inside with the chip, the Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5 for Galaxy. Generally, we see a little bit of a bump in performance, maybe slightly better battery life, and also the ISP, the image signal processor on the chip, has been tuned to work better with the new cameras. I will of course run full benchmarks in my full review, but we've seen this chip in a handful of other devices already, and it is a solid upgrade. Oh, and Samsung have redesigned the vapor chamber cooler in the S26. In fact, the entire lineup, with the Ultra version apparently, despite being thinner and faster with a new chip, dissipates heat 21% more effectively than last year's Ultra. And actually it's an even bigger upgrade for the regular S26 and the Plus, which I think is like 29% more effective at getting rid of the heat. So we're looking at better sustained performance, particularly useful if you're gaming. But, and it's a big but, if you buy the S26 or the S26 Plus, there are two models of this. In the US, in Japan, and in China, you will get the same Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5 for Galaxy as the Ultra. Everyone else, including Europe, Asia, we get Samsung's own Exynos 2600. We have gone back to Exynos. Now, the good news is that it is their first 2nm architecture chip, which I'm told, and I can't run benchmarks just yet, that will be coming, they should be comparable with Snapdragon's own chip. But we know from past experience that it's more than just raw numbers. It's about how it affects battery life and the camera. So lots of questions there. The good news, I suppose, is that the S26 Ultra globally will all have the Snapdragon chip. Also, all models of the new S26s will come with 12GB of RAM and also 256GB of storage, because remember last year, or previously, the base model came with just 128. So while they have actually increased the prices across the board, and we'll come to that at the end of the video, at least for the base S26, you are now getting 256 as standard, which is excellent news. And also, if you do spec the Ultra model with 1TB of storage, you'll get 16GB of RAM, but otherwise, no change there. And also what hasn't changed is the battery, still 5,000 mAh. I think we were all hoping that maybe we'd see the first silicon carbon battery tech from Samsung and we'd see a significant improvement. No. Despite rivals now on their third generation silicon batteries with their 6,000, 7,000 odd mAh cells, Samsung is stuck at 5,000. And yes, of course, iPhones have smaller batteries, but then Apple makes their own silicon, makes their own software, makes their own phone. There's a lot more optimization there. The battery life isn't bad on the S26 Ultra, and actually they are saying it'll be basically exactly the same as the S25 Ultra. Like, they gave me the same number of local playback hours. So no improvement even through optimization this year. It's basically gonna be exactly the same as last year, which is fine, but when you're gonna spend over £1,200, and actually technically £1,279 for the base model of the Ultra, and then you see what all the other Android rivals are doing, and also how much better the iPhone's got over the last couple of years, it is disappointing to see Samsung just not do anything with the battery. So the battery may be the same, but the good news is they have boosted the charging speeds. We're looking at 25 watts for the regular S26, 45 for the Plus, and now 60 watts for the Ultra, which they're calling super fast charging 3.0, which apparently will get you from 0 to 75% in half an hour, which is nice, better. What would also have been nice is if they had put Qi 2 charging support, so like they put the magnets in the phone. They haven't. That's like what we have with iPhone and MagSafe and the new Pixel 10 series of phones. All Samsung's cases do support it, so you can pop it on MagSafe type peripherals and accessories, but it's not built into the phone. So no Qi 2, but we do still have wireless charging, and it's 15 watts on the regular, 20 watts on the Plus, and 25 watts on the Ultra. But what about the camera? Is there much new this year? Well, a bit. And there does seem to be a focus on improving low light and nighttime photos and videos. So the main 200 megapixel camera lens now has a wider aperture, f1.4, making it 47% brighter. The ultra-wide is exactly the same, 50 megapixels, but that's fair enough as last year's S25 Ultra was a pretty big upgrade for the ultra-wide camera, so that stayed the same. And then we have the two telephoto lenses. The 10 megapixel 3x has a new sensor, and the 50 megapixel 5x telephoto now has a wider aperture, f2.9 versus 3.4. That's 37% brighter. They've also improved the lens coating to reduce lens flare, although they say this every year, but hopefully that makes a difference. And also updated their Pro Visual engine, which is all the processing stuff behind the scenes, blah, blah, blah. Hopefully it should all add up to be a reasonable upgrade to the camera, particularly if you're coming from S23, S22, or even something older. Also, you might just be able to see the selfie camera is actually a little bit bigger this year. It's the same 12 megapixel camera, but with a slightly wider focal length of 20mm versus 23. Samsung also promises better colors, textures, tones in all lighting, thanks to the new chip and the ISP, and first impressions, it does look a bit more detailed. Check this out though, the Super Steady mode now has this horizon lock option, so you can rotate the phone a full 360 degrees and it stays perfectly in line with the horizon. That is really cool, although once again you are limited to Quad HD, not 4K. Also, the log video, which you access via the Pro mode, now has 4 LUT presets. Previously, you just had the single Galaxy color correct option, but now you can switch between these different styles. And it's not baked in, you still shoot flat and then edit afterwards. Oh, and you know the audio eraser tool that can remove background sirens and chattering and things from the videos you shoot? Well, that now applies to everything, third-party apps like Netflix and Spotify and YouTube, which I found particularly intriguing because if you're watching, say, a football match, you can actually reduce the noise of the crowds in the background.
The defensive flick caused all kinds of problems.
And Samsung still have some of the best-in-class AI tools with their Galaxy AI. You've got their Photo Assist, Creative Studio, Bixby's even been upgraded, so you can talk to it with natural language now. And all Galaxy S26s come with Android 16 and Samsung's One UI 8 on top, and they promise 7 OS updates, 7 years of full Android updates, which is great support. So a decent upgrade overall. I would say the headline feature there I'm also going to be talking about is that privacy display, which I definitely need to test out more. The last question, of course, is how much? Well, unfortunately, across the board, everything is more expensive. Here in the UK, the Galaxy S26 will cost you $879. That's up from $799 last year, so 80 quid more. Although it does get you now 256 gigs of storage, double what you get before. And I suppose if you pre-order it, then they'll also double that. So if you pre-order a base S26, you'll actually get 512 gigs of storage, which is pretty cool. But yeah, £80 more expensive. But worse than that, the S26 Plus, which has the same spec as standard, is now £100 more. It's $1,099, up from $999. And the S26 Ultra is a mere £30 more expensive, starting at $1,279, which is still 80 quid more than an iPhone 17 Pro Max. But as I say, definitely check out Samsung's deals, as they're going to give you more for trade-ins right now. You get the double storage pre-order bonus, and also if you use my code and link, you'll also get 5% off, which is great, although there'll be some T&Cs I'll leave down there as well. But yeah, what do you think? Impressed? Disappointed by the new Galaxy S26s? Let me know what you think of it in the comments below, and also make sure you hit that subscribe button, as full reviews, camera comparisons, battery tests, all that good stuff coming very soon. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time right here on the Tech Chat.